Okay, let's start then. Thanks a lot for joining this call because this call is devoted to a very specific topic, something that we as lawyers, we as legal tech professionals do not speak about very often. It's about how we train lawyers in the new environment. And my strong belief is that AI and simulations, two technologies, will shape how training of lawyers is going to happen in the upcoming years. And I would like today to delve into it to see what are the problems, what are the benefits, what are the details of launching projects like that. So let's dive in. So one of the I spent a number of years promoting this idea of using simulations and other tools in legal training. But to be frank, for years, law firms did not understand why they needed simulations because they had a lot of tools to train lawyers. They had sessions, they had webinars, they had shadowing, which has been an integral part of legal training for many, many years. But with the AI changed that. AI changed it for one simple reason, is that AI started to take the junior work that used to be the integral part of junior legal training. And as a result, the problem arises. So how do we train the next generation of lawyers? Because the initial answer was simple: let's just fire everyone, and then the problem is solved. But later, they understood that if they fire everyone right now, they will not have any middle and senior level professionals in 5 years. So the problem appeared, and law firms started, and law schools started to look for solutions. And they needed a solution because existing formats did not work. Because classroom, for example, they are great. They allow us to have one-to-one connection to discuss important problems. But it takes time to organize a session, to collect everyone in one room. And it also requires you to break into everyone's calendars and try to find a slot which will work for many people at the same time, which is next to impossible if you have an organization of like 50 or 100 or 200 people. And online courses, which have been a big thing for many years, they also stopped working because online courses are great for sharing knowledge, for sharing information about important topics, raising awareness. But the problem is that online courses do not solve the problem of skill sharing, of helping people acquire new skills that can help them do their job better. And the reason for that is simple. Online tools, online courses, they are built around two things. This is either webinars, which again just solve the problem of sharing information, and the second integral part are like quizzes. So this very simple ways to check what you have remembered, what you have memorized, but in reality it doesn't help you do your job better. It doesn't help you develop the necessary skills. And as a result, the whole legal training was stuck in this very slow and very clumsy training loop. Because in order to become a great lawyer, you had to go through 4 stages, the stages that you can see on your screen right now. But there were such gigantic gaps between every stage that becoming a great lawyer took a lot of time. So you learn something and then it takes you months or years to get to the stage when you can practice something new. Then it took you weeks or even months to get from practicing to getting feedback on your work and understanding if what you are doing is correct, is beneficial, is something that you are expected to do. And then it could take you years to collect all your experience and then understand how to integrate this new knowledge into how into existing workflows and into your work. So obviously, now that we have AI and the legal industry is changing so quickly, we cannot allow us to operate using a system which has such gigantic time gaps between its stages, because otherwise we stop progressing, we stop developing, and this is a big problem. So Simulations in this case do not serve as an alternative way to look at the training loop. Because when speaking about simulations, the simulations are very simple things. So simulation is a digital twin of a real legal project. And its job is not to divide training into 4 stages: learn, practice, get feedback, and then integrate, but collapse them into one simple process, and as a result remove the time gaps between them, and as a result make the process of gaining new skills much faster, much easier, and much more efficient. So let me give you a very brief structure of a sample simulation, for example. So what is a simulation? So here you can see a design of a 4-step simulation. And every step is a different tool that is used to simulate reality, to bring real-life working experience into training. So we start with creating, for example, a bot which plays the role of a client that reaches out for advice to the lawyer. And the job of the lawyer here is to talk to the bot and to understand what is the problem, what are the details, to understand if they even can help this particular client in this particular situation. Then they jump to the second part of the simulation, where a lawyer collects and analyzes relevant information in order to provide advice. And this is a different experience. So here, the lawyer doesn't need to talk to a bot. They need to work with documents which are very much similar to real Word documents, go through them, analyze them, and find the problems, find the information which is important, and come up with a solution. Then we jump to the third part, and then in here again we're talking to a bot. But this is a different situation. Now, instead of actively listening, we're actively explaining what the solution is and how the problem should be solved. And there are so many different situations which can happen at this stage. We can advise to litigate, advise to settle, advise to sign a contract, advise to break an NDA. So very many different situations. And then we can jump to the 4th step, where we are writing a legal memo which sums up everything we have just said, and this allows the lawyer to develop their drafting skills. So the simulation cleverly broke the real-life project into different stages, allowed lawyers to go through every stage, practice immediately, get feedback, understand how the work should be done, and then use this practical experience immediately in real-life work. So just to give you a sneak peek into how this can look. So for example, if Rajiv is our client, when I have a simulation with them, I will be just talking to Rajiv about his problem. And as you can see from the slide, we can practice very different situations with Rajiv. So for example, here it is a discovery call. So now here it's my job to ask questions to Rajiv and to understand what problem he's facing right now. As you can see, Rajiv's mood is nice today. So Rajiv will be friendly and will not press me, but I can change this in the settings, and I can make Rajiv more aggressive or more nervous or more clumsy. So I can practice very many different situations that I can face in real life as a lawyer. And you can also see that the system is tracking if Rajiv is engaged. So if I say something wrong, if I say something which doesn't concern Rajiv at the moment, he may become disengaged and finish the call, and as a result, I'm not achieving my goals, which are the last point we're tracking here. So we're integrating goals into every conversation, allowing the system to track if my conversation with Rajiv is successful or not. So as a result, what is happening? Instead of having this loop where I learn, practice, get feedback, and then integrate this into my experience, all these 4 stages are happening at the same time, and they're helping each other. Because when Rajiv is telling me something, I learn a lot from him as a client. I know what to expect from my client. But I immediately react back, and as a result, I practice. And the moment I stop the conversation, the system will provide me feedback saying like, hey, next time, do not overwhelm Rajiv so much. Like, start with something simple. Give an overview of all the topics that you would like to discuss, and only then and only then start delving into particular problems. So this is the biggest advantage of simulations. Not because it's like it looks good, it's interesting. No, because it saves a lot of time for everyone, and specifically for lawyers and law students who are working with them. But unfortunately, building simulation is not as easy as we want it to be. Because you might think, okay, we can take ChatGPT, for example, and build a bot inside ChatGPT, and we can do that. So we can upload a lot of information, we can upload sample dialogues, we can upload information about contracts. But real simulations for lawyers will be more complicated. For one simple thing. So for example, we need first, when designing a simulation, decide what kind of skills we're building. Because if we are building hard skills or soft skills, we will have different tools. So for example, for soft skills, it's easy. We'll be building bots. This can be text bots, this can be voice bots. That's something we are very much familiar with. But for hard skills, we need specific legal tools. So for example, we can have a document review exercise where we need to go through the document, look for mistakes and fix them. Or for example, we need to create a chart for the upcoming litigation to decide what to do and how to do in a particular order. So, moreover, we will have different simulation tools for different practice groups. Because initially when we started building BeSavvy, we thought that we can create a universal platform that will resolve any objectives we have. And this is probably what any legal tech project starts with. Because initially legal tech project thought that they can create some kind of a universal legal tech tool that will resolve all the problems. But once we start developing the tool, we understand that we need to target particular use cases in order to create very useful tools that lawyers can really benefit from. So for example, if we speak about arbitration and litigation tools, we really need to create specific tools for this. So, and there are a couple of reasons for that. So for example, if we are building a bot for a judge, this judge must comply with very strict procedural rules that clients or other lawyers don't usually comply with. Or for example, if we have a witness as a part of our litigation simulation, the witness can behave in a very unusual way. They can cry, they can tell lies, they can try to manipulate you. So we need to build specific personas specifically for arbitration litigation tools to really come close to reality, to show, to make lawyers believe that what they are working with is not just a toy. This is a real tool that they can benefit from and that they can work with. For corporate law and M&A, again, we have some special things. For example, we have SPA and SHA are the key documents that the whole M&A practice is revolving around. So when working with them, when working with M&A practice groups, we need to have pre-built exercises for drafting and analyzing and exercising judgment regarding SPAs and SHAs. Otherwise, it will not be as efficient as we want it to be. Another detail is that M&A and corporate law practice groups often play the role of a coordinator between different other practice groups during an M&A transaction. So for example, a client comes to a corporate practice group, they ask them for something, and then the corporate group has to send messages to employment and to tax groups, get their advice, build some kind of a solution on top out of it, and then get it back to the client. So as a result, we need to build simulations that allow us to communicate not with one bot, but with different bots representing different practice groups to make this realistic and interesting. And now, like real estate, this is my last example. Again, we have specific documents like lease agreements, and we have specific roles like landlords, because we have very specific problems in real estate. For example, like structural and non-structural changes to the building, and the bot should be aware of it. And it's nice if we pre-build bots that are aware of these problems instead of developing from scratch during every project. And after practice groups, we also need to build specific tools for different generations of lawyers. Because, for example, when I talk to members of law firms, they say that very often the new generation of lawyers are practically afraid of taking real-life calls, and afraid of calling calling clients, calling other law firms, calling government agencies. And I understand that, because I was afraid to take calls when I was starting my legal career, because even I, as a new generation, don't have a lot of experience talking to people on some important topics over the phone, and not knowing how it will turn out. So, Jamie, could I ask you to put yourself on mute, yeah, if you don't mind? Thank you. That's why we need to build specific simulations for soft skill development, like, for example, cold calling, because the new generation of lawyers will really benefit from having some experience of taking calls, simulated calls, before they meet real clients and real people in their job. So at the end of the day, what we are trying to achieve is to build a platform that can offer solutions on 3 different levels. So we definitely need, and we already have built, a flexible no-code platform for building any type of simulations. It means that if you it means that if you want to build something new, something that hasn't been created yet, you can do it through the platform. But to make it easy to work with the platform, we also need to have the second level, which is customizable templates that can be used by teams from knowledge management or L&D to build simulations, because they will have some kind of a template to start with. And we also need to have pre-built tools that can be used out of the box for different practical situations. For example, a witness that can be used for cross-examination, or a landlord persona that can be used for lease renewal negotiation. So it turns really out that our initial vision was we can just have the platform that everyone can use, but we currently see that to make it really useful and to allow everyone to benefit from it, we need to build tools on top of the platform that allow to move and progress and use it much faster, using these pre-built templates and pre-built bots and pre-built personas. Now I would like to speak about different challenges, because simulations and bots, they really look like a great idea. It really seems like they can be a solution to a lot of training problems, and they can be a real game changer. And but it doesn't really happen this way. So I just to share with you some of the challenges we have faced during our current projects with law firms. So the first problem is that coordinating these projects is very, very difficult, because once you introduce new technologies and new approaches into training, you have to get green light from very different departments at a law firm. So it can be an L&D department because you deal with some soft skill development. It can be knowledge management department because you deal with some hard skills development. This is innovation department because we are bringing new technology. And these are also partners and fee earners, because at the end of the day, these are the lawyers who will be using this platform and who will be helping developing simulations for other lawyers in the firm. Another problem is data collection. So for example, if we speak about other industries, such as, for example, sales, they always record calls that salespeople make. As a result, if you want to make a simulation of a sales call, you have a chance to get this data from the law firm and use it as a knowledge base for any bots that you are building. When we're working with law firms, it's not as easy as that, because usually law firms do not have recordings of how they talk to a client during transaction, or how they approach different problems. You have to extract this information somehow, usually through one-to-one communication with lawyers. And this is one of the biggest probably hurdles when it comes to building simulations, because you have to really collect a lot of data from law firms that has not been collected yet, and you have to try to understand who are the best people to do that, and what particular information you need. The good thing is that data protection, which is another big topic, is not that big of a problem here, because at the end of the day, the training data is usually not financial data, not client data, not privilege data. So we as ad tech providers do not really face this problem when we have to comply with a lot of internal rules, because we do not usually use any data which is protected in any way. Another problem is the scenario design, because at the end of the day, building a simulation as a tool is not that difficult, but you need to develop a scenario which will resonate with lawyers, because otherwise they will not believe it. So if they see that this is not realistic, if this is not something they can face in real life, if they think that this is something that is not important, they will just drop it. So besides building a great tool from the technical point of view, you also need to have a great story. You need to design a simulator that will resonate with people, that will have a narrative, that will have a story, that will have a problem, that will have characters, and in which all the tasks are somehow interconnected and look realistic. So this is another challenge, especially when you have a big team. So for example, you have a knowledge management lawyer providing you with information, you have an L&D team which have some objectives on how and have their own vision on how training tools should look like, and you have to make sure that you implement all the ideas that they have and still have a great story and have a great product that people can use. And the last challenge is persuading lawyers that simulations are a tool and not another course. So what do I mean by that? The lawyers need to understand that a great simulation is not something they can use once. This is something they can use to get ready for all kind of legal projects during every month, every year, so any time they face a similar problem. So, for example, I can show you one of the examples from the projects that we have just run. So, what I show you here is that the student in this particular simulation started using it as a tool and not as a course. So they had their first board conversation. And as you can see, there were 4 goals for this particular bot session. And they have achieved only 1 goal during their first attempt. So right after the simulation, the system provided them with some evaluation results. And they suggested what can be improved and what can be done in a different way. So we saw from the system that they went for the second time, they used the advice that the system has provided, and as a result achieved all 4 goals in the next session. So this is the behavioral change we are looking for when building simulations for law firms. We want people not to just use them as another way to collect information. We want them to use it as a tool to practice and develop the skills and make their lives easy when they face real clients, real lawyers, real judges, and whoever they work with in real life. But at the end of the day, if everything is done right and we overcome these challenges, we can truly believe that there are a lot of shareholders in law firms that can benefit from this approach. So lawyers can benefit from practical experience and instant feedback. We've spoke a lot about it today. L&D and knowledge management teams can repeat from rapid creation and just-in-time delivery. Because if they know how to use BeSavvy, for example, they can build tools in days and they can ship them immediately to everyone in the law firm. And this is one of the biggest concerns. So I talked to a lot of members of L&D teams, and one of the biggest problems they described is that they wanted to build these training tools fast enough to make sure that they deliver them just in time when these tools are needed. And the simulation, it becomes much easier to deliver all this value just in time. And for managers, for partners, for senior lawyers, this is the benefit is deep analytics. So this is what I showed at my previous slide. So everyone can see how well people perform, where they struggle, where they need help, and how to this data can really enrich decision making inside law firms, because for the first time in history you can really use it to take a look at what is happening inside lawyers' heads, and as a result make better decisions that can benefit everyone in the firm. So I would like to finish with talking about what's next at BeSavvy, and speaking of some of the ideas that we are working on at the moment. And so the first thing is that we are trying to build more advanced simulation tools. So we have already built text bot negotiation dialogues. We are releasing for our clients right now voice bots, but I must say that we still expect voice technology to develop, because at the end of the day, the job of a voice bot is not only to just deliver information. We want them to be emotional. We want them to to speak in different ways. We want them to feel more realistic. And I must say that the current level of technology is more similar to just the current voice AI is just transferring information. I can't say that they're playing the roles well, but we really think that in the upcoming months the situation might change. And the third level, so something we are constantly looking for, something we want to build, are video bots. So we really want to have this visual representation of litigation, of negotiations, of decision making inside law firms. The technologies that are already in the market do not yet solve this problem, because they are just, so if we do have some video tools which work in real life, which work pretty well. But again, these bots just convey information. They can be used for creating videos, educational videos, but they cannot use to help someone enrich the experience of seeing how litigation is happening. So because they are still not human enough. But we are monitoring, and we do really expect this technology to improve in the next 6 to 12 months and give us opportunities to build simulations using video. Another of our focus is building better dev tools, because we want to give every law firm an opportunity to build their own simulations. And as I've said, building bots or building tools is not that difficult, but it's difficult because simulations are not only about the technology, it's also about the story. So the most difficult part is building dev tools in a way when you can easily create stories around simulations when doing this. So we need to provide hints and explanations and structure to what type of characters need to be created, what kind of a conflict they're resolving, and then and only then start building tasks and boards around these situations. So this is a very difficult task to implement, and this is something we believe should be implemented by us in the upcoming months. And the last point is enhancing analytics. So one of the key things right now is that we're working on is the complexity index. So we believe that using simulations for evaluation is not a good idea, because simulations are a place for everyone to practice, not to feel evaluated. Because if people feel evaluated, they will they will not feel the freedom to practice. And this is definitely not the pattern we want to be a part of our training. So what we are trying to research is the complexity index. So these are the small numbers, as you can see below every block. So every block is a question that has been asked during the simulation, and then we analyze how complicated this particular question was for the group of students and for every student separately. It allows us to immediately identify the zones and the questions which caused a lot of problems, and allows us to target these problems in the next simulations or during live sessions or during mentoring. But we collect so much data during simulations on how people think, how people react, how much attempts they take, that we really feel that we need to develop more tools for analytics and do not stop where we are now. Because at the end of the day, we need to really benefit from this approach when people are communicating with bots, and to really provide them as much useful and actionable feedback as possible. So yeah, just a brief comment, for law firms that are listening to us today, is that we are still doing free pilots. We have two slots for the last 2 quarters of this year. So if you would like to speak about it in more detail, please reach out to me. And yeah, thanks a lot for coming. Thanks a lot for learning so much about simulations and AI, and I will be happy to answer your questions.